Felicitations! It is me on my 10th podcast. Welcome. Felicia Day here. I am back from Comic-Con, and it was a weekend. First of all, I am a day late on this podcast upload because I was so tired last night. I couldn't even keep my eyes open, and I was like, well, I could phone it in, but let's not do that. Also, then I started to record it, and I forgot that GarageBand, if you do a default voice track, does like an echo. So it felt like I was doing like some kind of prog rock song for about 30 minutes. And then I noticed, oh no, you had that thing on, and forget I'm going to bed. Great story, huh? Then this morning I tried to record it, and for some reason the neighbor decided to, terraform every single leaf in his garden. So for 6 hours there were leaf blowers and leaf cutters, and somebody was on the roof of my garage. And I was like, I don't know, I guess you could have told me you're going to be up there. Nobody rappelled through the skylight and tried to attack me, so it was cool. So that was what was happening. Anyway, I was in Comic-Con! Woohoo, Comic-Con! Guys, I used to literally revolve my life around San Diego Comic-Con. Everything we did with the guild, it was planned. It was aimed toward dazzling people at Comic-Con. And I have to say, we had some dazzling moments. There was that moment where we did the Date My Avatar video, and we walked in costume, and Joss Whedon was in the front row, and there were only 300 people, but there were 1,000 waiting to get into our panel. And even though the cast was complaining about it, but, it was kind of awesome to do. Xbox actually rented us a stripper bus to get to the convention from the hotel because we were all in costume and couldn't actually walk. And it was a stripper bus only because there was a pole in it and lasers, and it was a pole that you could dance on. So, if you were a professional stripper, you could do some cool things in there. And if you were a casual stripper, I don't know, maybe you could just attempt something good. Anywho, but, the last 2 years, I have kind of been a freewheeler. Last year, I was really busy with MST3K, and I had my baby with me, so I was there for 4 days, but it was, kind of crazy and hectic, and I didn't bring Calliope down this year because last year when I brought her down at 6 months, it took an hour and a half for her to go to bed because she was like, ooh, 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 kind of looking around. I think I told this story last week, which kind of emphasizes the point where I feel guilty as a mother for having brought her. So I left her home this year, and it was the first time kind of being away from her, and it was, I don't know, guys, it was okay. I missed her, and I certainly didn't party it up until 3 a.m. or something like I used to do. So I was just happy to be in bed by midnight and wake up at 7 or 8. I thought it was kind of great. I woke up at 5 anyway, so it wasn't like I got more sleep, but I don't know. It was fine. I actually drove back on Saturday night because I was like, I could go to parties, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to go home. And it was great. I was in bed by midnight. Woohoo! I've been wooing a lot. I don't know if I've turned into a sorority girl or not. I don't know. But it was a great Comic-Con nonetheless, because last year I was a little frazzled and still full of crazy pregnancy hormones. And this year I was a normal human being who happened to just be doing a lot of awesome stuff. So I did a panel that I've wanted to do for years. They've asked me for years to do, and I could never do it, and I did it, called the Great Debate Panel. It was for Sci-Fi Wire, and Orlando Jones was on it, Adam Savage, Janet Barney, Joe Manganiello. Oh, I'm going to look this up. Manganiello. Joe Manganiello. Joe Manganiello. I'm sorry if I messed it up. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to be better at names because I should not insult somebody by not putting some work. Anyway, he's great. He just released an awesome line of D&D clothes that kind of mixes metal with D&D, and I'm like, this isn't totally my style, but that t-shirt's awesome, so I'll wear it, kind of thing. So that's cool. And also, who was on the panel? Orlando Jones and Aisha Tyler was the moderator, and she was so funny. I have to say, they didn't award a winner in the end, but I had 4 or 5 fans come up to me on the floor when they saw me and say, hey, you totally won the great debate. So based on those 4 out of 3,000 people who were in the room, totally going to claim the victory there. I did a real good riff on Captain Planet. You guys should look up the YouTube video. I'll put it in the comments. So that was super fun. Then the next day we had our Dr. Horrible reunion panel. It was our 10th anniversary, you guys. And unfortunately, several of the people couldn't be there. Jen and Marissa, who run Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., had an emergency happen with their production. They couldn't make it down. So it's basically me and Nathan and Joss in front of 5,000 people. And it was so much fun. I don't see those guys very often, but just sitting there, when you have good friends, you guys, time doesn't pass. You could see them and not talk to them. I have another friend, Kim, who I've known since I moved to LA, and I don't see her that often. She has kids I've never met. I'm a bad friend in that respect, but whenever I see her, I'm like, it's like we just click immediately, like we're old friends again, and I guess that's good. I mean, that's a good friendship, where you know each other well enough to be able to kind of leave each other's orbits and come back and just kind of go right back to where you were before. And that's kind of how the Dr. Horrible panel was. Jen and Marissa sent this amazing, fun script that we read really stiffly about their not being able to be there. And Joss announced a one-shot Dr. Horrible comic that when he was describing to us, it sounded amazing. So it was great. Except for the fact he didn't even tell us that he was rebooting Buffy. We were with him all morning, and I was like, what? And it was so exciting. I saw the tweet go by. I was like, oh! So it actually was really funny. That it was fun to be surprised with that. So that was it. That was really great. And we hung out. And then I had some signings for MST3K. And we had a Dr. Horrible signing. And I did a signing for the Brown Coat booth for charity. And they raised like $3,000 for Rices. So that was really great. And then I hosted the Magicians panel. I was the moderator. And guys, I literally have like a dozen requests to moderate panels at Comic-Con every year. And, you do them for fun. You're not paid to do them. You just do them for fun. And I love being on panels. Moderating them makes me very, very tense. And thank you to anybody who sent me a tweet afterwards saying you enjoyed my moderation, because especially in the beginning, it's kind of like you're hosting a party and you don't know if anybody's going to be happy. So you're just frantic the whole time about making everybody happy. And I'm the kind of person who has to eat one bite out of each thing on my plate and then at the end come out so there's one bite of each thing left on the plate. Do you know what I'm saying? So if I have peas and mashed potatoes and like a meat, I have to eat evenly so that the very last round will be one bite of each thing. Is that creepy? I know other people who have to eat one thing at a time, which I find to be crazy, because then you just got one taste sensation the whole time. Anyway, I get anxious about eating. So you'll know that I get anxious about other things, and moderating a panel, especially one that I care a lot about, because not only have I been on the show Magicians, I love the whole cast, and I am kind of a fangirl of Sarah Gamble, because she is the most badass, one of the most badass Hollywood women I know. She's running 2 shows. She's gorgeous. She seems to keep it all together. She's funny. She's edgy. I love her. So I was kind of had performance anxiety going up there, but honestly, I've learned in this world that even though you're like falling apart on the inside, a lot of people don't know how nervous you are on the outside. Especially if they kind of don't even know you as a person. Like, you could see your friend's tics or your brother's tics or your significant other's tics and tell, hey, you were nervous there. But that's only because you know them really well. A lot of people just, especially when they're in public, they put on a good face, but you inside don't know it. You're like, I am sweating under the armpits, but you're not in my armpit, thank goodness. That would be a weird convention. Be inside people's armpits. Sometimes it smells like that. Anyway, including me, I forgot deodorant. And I literally went back to my hotel 3 times to kind of like wash up, because I was like, I don't want to be stinky. Weird. I don't know how to pack anymore. So, but the Magician panel went awesome. It really loosened up when I talked about their dogs, because they're one of the most dog-friendly sets I've ever been on. They love their dogs so much. They all have like old dogs or special needs dogs, or just like generally like, awesome dogs. And that was kind of my favorite thing of the panel. Except one guy on Twitter was like, hey, she ruined the panel. And of course, I gave him attention And I said, well, thanks for that feedback, because they didn't like me asking questions during the Q&A. And I was like, well, thanks for the feedback. And I thought it through, and I'm like, every moderator I've ever watched does follow-up questions. Why am I giving this guy credence? And then I saw kind of who his followers were, and I was like, oh, I don't care. So then I deleted the tweet. You can only give people the benefit of the doubt so much, and I've decided not to anymore. Like, I don't care. If I see, there was somebody today who was like, hey, some of your fans are conservative. And then I was like, oh, let me click on their profile. And then there was just like a bunch of still pictures of, female politicians who are Democrats and ugly, fat, mouth pad. Then I noticed there was a Confederate flag emoji and like their bio. And I'm like, oh, you're a bad person. Bye. Bad person. Not that anybody who doesn't agree with me is a bad person, you guys. Hopefully I've established that. I respect people who do not agree with me. But if you are disparaging or mocking or maybe using, I don't know, racist comments like that person was, I was like, oh, you're not good. You're not a good person. Hopefully you're a bot. Sometimes I'm like, I hope it's a bot. Please let it be a bot, not a real person. Anyway, not to talk about that stuff anymore. I also had an amazing time at Comic-Con because I actually had time to walk around, you guys. I did a drive-by of the Team Human meetup. Hi, humans. And I went to 2 parties. I went to Bill Prady, who created Big Bang, is a friend of mine, and he had a party. And he has a party every year that's like a daytime party. So it's like near the beach and it's beautiful. And every single year I've done nothing but like done a drive-by. Like, hey, Bill, sorry, I can't stay. I got to go by. And I see all my other friends drinking and eating. And there was ice cream. And I'm like, why can I stop? Oh, I'm scheduled to the nth degree. So this year I actually experienced Comic-Con like a regular person, and it was so great. I spent 2.5 hours there. I met an astronaut. I met people who worked on Supernatural. I met Neil Gaiman. I mean, I know him, but I re-met him, and it was like, ooh, Neil, you remember me. It was pretty great. Phil Plait, the astronomer, the bad astronomer, all sorts of friends, and it was so nice. I was like, oh, this is why people love Comic-Con, because they're not working every hour and every hour. I didn't really go to nighttime parties. I went to a couple of friends, just like get-togethers. But I did go to one boat party. And if you follow Cliffy B, you could see some pictures from it. He and Alex, who created Gravity Falls, and Justin, who created Rick and Morty, have done a boat party every year. And honest to God, I didn't know there were boats behind the San Diego Convention Center because that's how like busy I was. I'd never been back there. And so every year I'm like, oh, I'm too busy to go. Sorry. This year I was like, I'm going to that boat party. So I went back there and they were like, oh, get here by 10 to get on the boat. So I went and I presented at the Eisner Awards, and then I introed the Dr. Horrible screening and thanked everybody for, just loving the show for years and years. And then I ran to the boat and I got on the boat. And it was a boat, you guys. It's a 3-story boat. It's a huge, huge boat. And it was awesome. But then I was so tired. I was like, I'm going to leave. And I look out the window. I took a lot of pictures, like group pictures. And there was like a blow-up doll and like a blow-up penis. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I just chugged a drink. And then I was like, I'm out of here. And then the boat starts moving. And I was like, no, I wanted to watch HGTV. Let me off. I honestly didn't know the boat was going to move. And I was like, where are we going? Are we going out to sea? I don't know how to swim. Where are the life vests? There were 22-year-olds dancing in sequins. And I'm like, I feel old. There are monkeys here. There were tiny monkeys at the party. And then I was concerned about the monkeys. The cage was near the dance floor. There was a strobe light. Well, not a disco light. I was like, monkeys get epilepsy. Like, I'm worried about these monkeys. Is the music too loud for them? Should they be at this party? One of them was Marcel from Friends. I was a little intimidated, like starstruck, honestly. And then the boat just moved 15 minutes north, and then I just got off. It was a great party. I was in bed by 12. So that was my Comic-Con. And I also think I had a pair of jeans stolen from my room. And I know that's terrible because every single time I lose something, I'm like, someone stole it. And I'm pretty sure that I just lose things. But I scoured that hotel room for my pair of jeans. And I know that I took them because I remember, this is a true story. All my jeans are like size 26, except for one pairs of 28s that I bought. And those 28s are the only ones I can sit in a car for a prolonged period of time without doing the undoing the top button. Like basically I never undo. I mean, I'm just too lazy to A, get in shape, or B, get bigger pants. So I have one pair of 28s that actually fit me really well. And I remember going on the car ride down thinking, hey, I don't have to undo the top pants. These should be my driving pants. So I don't have my driving pants anymore. And I was looking for them on the way back. And I'm like, where are my driving pants? And they were gone. So did someone steal them? Did they put them in the drawer and I just didn't look? Probably. No one called me about my driving pants. So somebody has my driving pants. Also, I really should just go shopping. I have a lot of stomach aches lately and acid reflux. And I'm like, maybe it's because you're wearing pants that are 2 inches too small for you and around your abdomen. Just embrace it. Or go work out. Anyway. If you see some pants, they're AG brand. They were kind of expensive. They were like over $100 and they were a very good denim and they were not broken in yet. So if you see them in San Diego, let me know. I also redid, before I left, I redid my Amazon page, you guys. If you're looking for baby paraphernalia, they updated it so you can do categories. So if you go to amazon.com/shop/Felicia Day, I do get a little bit of a money from the storefront. It's very, very small money, but it's a sort of an affiliate link. But I just love the fact that I can put all the stuff I love in one place. So there's toys and furniture decor and bedding and baby books and clothes. And I keep adding to it, you guys. So it's a nice resource. Look there and buy elsewhere if you want. I don't know. I just like putting them all in one neat place. Also, it's a great procrastination activity. So I did that. And then I did a bunch of other things. I am really proud I've kept up my Duolingo. I was on a 17-day streak. 17 days in a row I did my Duolingo, and I missed one because of the monkey boat party. And so I broke my streak, and it was a little disappointing, guys, because it's the first time I've been like, I'm applying myself. So I got back on the bandwagon. I'm on day 4 of a new streak. We'll see. Does anybody do that? It's the perfect gamification of learning languages. Not sponsored by, but if you want to sponsor me, I would be happy to talk about Duolingo because it's great. I feel like I go to my weekly Spanish class, which also makes me feel good about myself because I'm like, hey, I'm self-improving. And I swear I'm like better than everybody else. I know bolígrafo. I know how to conjugate trabajo. I feel like I could go to Mexico and not be understood, but at least feel like I could muddle through a couple things. I'm not there yet. But Duolingo, I'm just competitive about like leveling it up. It's scratching that little gaming itch that I haven't been scratching, which I'm excited to scratch this weekend when I stream. I have one other story to relay, and then I'm going to get at some books that I read and also a couple of questions because I got to wrap it up. Baby's gonna want me in a minute. Has anyone done this? I had a business call and I was calling my acting manager, and I called, but I thought I was calling my agent, and I asked for the wrong person. And the person was like, and the receptionist was like, Chris who? Okay, let me connect you. And she was so unsure. And then when she put me on the connection thing, I panicked. I was like, oh no, what Chris am I going to get? I dialed the wrong person. I hung up. And so I called back, but I was so embarrassed that I didn't want the receptionist to remember me. So I went, hi, can I speak to Jeff? Just, why? Why didn't I use my normal voice? Before I was like, hi, can I speak to Chris? And then I got embarrassed. Why would I be embarrassed about that? So when I called back, hi, can I speak to Jeff? Has anybody done that? What is my problem? You're not my therapist. Why am I asking you? I don't know. It's just you think you achieve something. You're at an age where you're like, I am so close to being an adult now, and I don't think it's ever going to happen for me. I'm never going to be there. I'm never going to. I don't know. It's confusing. Anywho, a couple books I read this week. I have been trying to chip away at Into the Woods, a 5-act journey into story by John York. It was recommended to me by John Rogers, an amazing writer, as one of his favorite books on screenwriting. It is a dense read, you guys, and I am taking some notes, but I am not getting it through it. It's going to be like my 2-month read. I'll just read like half a chapter every day, every other day or something, and get through it. But it has some very good insights. It's just very dense. So that's what I'm reading educationally. I restarted reading the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin because I've started reading it and then I forgot about it. And I love her book so much. She's an incredible author. If you have not dived into her fantasy worlds, you definitely should. And it won a Hugo, so there you go. And I got a new Kindle that's waterproof, so now I can read in the bathtub. So I can, it's so good, you guys, so good. It was a birthday present, a late one, and it is so sweet. It is a sweet ride in the hand. So sweet. And it's waterproof, so I just get in the bathtub, and I'm like, sit in the bathtub, like, just, I don't know, reading, doing what you do when you have a waterproof Kindle. And then I'm also reading this book that because I presented an award for Best Educational Book at the Eisner Awards, which is like, the Oscars for comics every year at Comic-Con. And I presented an award for this book called How to Read Nancy, The Elements of Comics in 3 Easy Panels. And like, I don't know about you, but Nancy and Family Circus, I've always hated him. I've been like, they're so simple and like, I spit on you, children. But this book is so great. It gives you this amazing look into the history of comics, into the history of this artist who invented Nancy, and who you never would appreciate until you read this book. And then you're like, oh my God, this guy was a genius. And it also is an amazing just breakdown in how comic strips are created and all the elements that you don't appreciate. And almost it's like so detailed. You're like, really? Are you tongue-in-cheek right now, or are you really for real? But either way, it's incredible. It's such an incredible journey, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend it if you're a comic book lover. It's a big, big book, very dense. It's just great. And it obviously just has love all the way inside and out of it, because I guess Nancy is an underground icon. The guy who created it, he's an icon as far as the way he uses graphic design, the simplicity, the idea of the gag of the comic and how simple and clean and clear he was. And honestly, the hardest thing in writing is to be simple and clear. I'm the kind of person who has to write 10 pages for every one that ends up on the page. It's just, I've eventually learned that that's my process, and I just have to embrace the fact that I have to put all that effort into it in order to distill it down. Some people will sit there and outline to the nth degree and just like, poop, I have a screenplay. Like, you're awesome. I will never be you. So I think, a lot of it is just process, and to be able to admire the simplicity of somebody's art form is in a way that you didn't before is really a gift. So this is a really cool book. It's kind of like watching a figure skater. Like, you watch the first or second best in the world, and you're like, oh, that looks so easy. And then you watch like the 20th, the person who's like falling and then just like clumsy, and you're like, oh, this is hard. It takes a lot of work to be simple and clean. Except for, just bringing your deodorant to Comic-Con. That would have been easier. Cleaner. Oh, those are my books this week. And let's see. Oh, I'm going to do one question. Let's think. Dalen Boyd asks, I liked it when you were talking about reading nonfiction and how you keep notes in a notebook for later reference. I've been thinking about starting a commonplace book or something like that, but I get overwhelmed and have a lot of anxiety about not doing it efficiently or correctly, quote unquote. I don't have a specific question, but I'd love to hear you talk more about how you use your notebook and what you like to put in it. Love the podcast. You're great. Smiley face. Well, thanks, Dalen. Sorry. Well, this is cool. I keep notes everywhere, and I do that because I read somewhere that Larry David, who created Seinfeld, lives by his notebooks. He carries notebooks everywhere he does, and every single observation he puts it down. And every writing book I've ever read says, hey, if you think you're going to remember it, you're not. You're never going to remember it, so write it down. Because you never know when you're going to use a joke or have an observation or whatever. And the thing that really drilled it in was taking a stand-up comedy class, which I would encourage anybody to do, because doing stand-up comedy is terrifying. And if you embrace the idea that you can be terrified and bad in front of people, you are a superhero, you guys. Honestly. And I love you talking about being overwhelmed and having anxiety about doing it efficiently or correctly. Guess what, Dalen? You don't ever have to show that notebook to anybody. Why don't you basically get a notebook and be like, this is the worst notebook ever written. This is going to be a compilation of poop. I'm going to just write down poop. And it doesn't need to be good. You never have to look at it again. But the process of making yourself kind of use it as a dumping ground, look at it as like a dump. This is your dump. This is where you put your poop if you had to poop in an outhouse and like dump it out somewhere else. This is where you put your old garbage. This is your compost heap for your mind. And then later when you go through it and, rummage through it, you might find something awesome. You're like, oh, I threw out something pretty great. This was an unopened box from Amazon. Like, I don't know where this analogy is going. Anyway, so there you go. I love the fact that you are the same as me, where you get anxious over things that really, why are we getting anxious over those things? Well, why are you anxious? That the receptionist thinks you called back an error. Well, that's just who I am. That's going to be my propensity. But the fact that I'm self-aware enough to not let it rule me and to call myself out about it, and maybe next time force myself to be brave enough, being like, hey, it's Jeff. And if you recognize me, yeah, I called earlier. I want Jeff. I think a lot of the time you just have to risk being really terrible or make the deliberate attempt to be awful. I get a lot of panic attacks, and especially around acting and, like I said, the magicians panel, I was really nervous when I walked out. And I walked out and I was like, you know what? Why don't you just have the worst panel ever? Just risk it. And it made me laugh because I pictured like, hey, I hate everybody. I pictured myself doing something awful and it made me laugh. And it actually helped me get through that little hump to start and then get into the panel. So that's my advice, man, in life. And especially if it's something creative, you guys, like, don't show anybody anything that you don't feel safe showing them. And until you're at the point where you're like, I can't do anything more with this, and I will be improved by having it be criticized. Never show something a work in progress. That's what I'm saying. You don't want somebody to kind of criticize something that's too early, and then it causes you to lose faith in yourself and start creating for other people. I do that all the time. But that is never going to help you get yourself onto a page or in a sculpture or in a book, or on a comic book page or in a podcast, any of it. It's never going to help you. So my advice is to keep the notebook and just write down funny things and just start. Like, honestly, just start and make the first chapter the dump ground. Like, hey, I really like Cheetos. Hey, whatever happened to pineapple, I don't know. Just make observations. Even if it's stupid, like why are fire hydrants red? And then go home, and then later you can go home and look it up. Hey, you know something you didn't know earlier. If you looked it up, I don't know. If we looked at the world like that, we'd actually probably be a lot more happy and knowledgeable. If we looked at it as always homework, always a place to discover things, always a place to question. And if you think of something funny, like snarky, like the story about me and calling up for Jeff or Chris and meeting Jeff, that's funny. That's where you get stand-up comedy. And that's the best thing. When I took the class, they were like, just write down anything. And when you have the notebook in your hand, you kind of start looking as a radar, like, hey, what am I observing that I would never have called out before that I can put in this notebook and maybe use as the little tiny seed that I can grow later? And I also put down authors I forget or people I need to call or other things I forgot, like, hey, file those insurance paperworks. I have like notes on my iPhone like that, like to-do lists and stuff. And sometimes I'm just allowing myself to be sloppy and put it all in the same book and then later just dig out the stuff I need and file it other places. A lot of the times I'll do the analog thing and then I'll move it to, I have a master file in like Scrivener of like different categories of like, hey, this would have been a cool book. And I put it in the book file. It's just good to have a dumping ground and have it be a dumping ground for awesome, but also have a dumping ground for terrible. And the worst case, what is the worst that could happen? Well, somebody would open it and make fun of you. I don't know. If you're afraid of that as an adult, you probably have a bad roommate. And also, who cares? Make fun of me. I don't give a crap. That kind of attitude really, that kind of attitude takes the power away from that kind of shame and empowers you to have like this awesome shield that you can just batter away all the criticisms and the self-imposed criticisms that we put on ourselves every day for no apparent reason. You're not becoming a better person by not doing a notebook because you're afraid of something. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself a chance. You know, be an advocate for yourself. Like, allow yourself to be bad, and only good things can happen, honestly. So that's my advice. Abby Wilson asked a question that kind of folds into that I just wanted to tack on here. She asks, I have a pretty good contact for getting into the writing for TV Masters program in New York City. How do I muster up the courage to commit? Any advice? Well, when I know about lack of courage. I hate cold emailing people. I despise phone calls. I don't like emailing people, and I figured it out. It's because when I email people, I know that they're going to follow up and another step is going to happen. And it could lead down a path that I don't know what's going to happen, and therefore I'm scared. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of committing myself, even though, like, but it's the same thing as like, oh, I'm scared of going on one date because, we might get married and divorced in 5 years. Like, what? So I guess my advice to you is just go down the path. And, like, if it feels right, do it. If it doesn't, just be like, you know what? My life isn't ready for this, or I have something else I have to do. I can't pursue this right now, but thank you for giving me the information. And also, if it's something that really plagues you, you can't live with regret. So sometimes I think, am I going to regret this if I don't do this? Even if it fails horribly, even if it doesn't work out for me, even though if I do it and I waste $50,000 on, schooling, like, am I going to, at the end of my life, be really, really happy with this process and the fact that I took a chance and did it? Because honestly, sometimes you just have to take the step one direction, even though ultimately you're going to go the opposite direction because you had to go that way in order to go zigzag back, right? You know what I'm saying? So whatever you learn there, even there, if it's a total mistake, you're going to learn something from it. I guess my advice is, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But you're clearly bringing it up, and you don't have the courage to do it, which has nothing to do with the want to do it. So it's all about, either overcoming rejection, overcoming fear of the unknown, and neither of those things are actually going to help you progress in life. So I don't know. I hope you do it if you want to have a career in TV writing. Like, if you don't, if it's just like a whim or something, I don't know how to advise you. I guess, did I just negate all my good advice? I'm the worst. Anyway, okay, guys. Well, I will see you next week. This is Felicitations. Please, 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 20 more of you gave me an iTunes review last week. Thank you. If 20 more can do it, I would appreciate it, okay? I bought a SoundCloud professional account, which was $100, and now they won't take away my podcasts, so wee-hee. And hopefully, maybe one day I will be transferring to a new place. But other than that, before that, I'm on SoundCloud.com/FeliciaDay and on iTunes. And I'm going to try to get on Google Play soon. So, woohoo. All right. I'll see you guys this weekend for a stream and next week on the podcast. Toodaloo. Bye.